Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society, bringing you our nightly update regarding the tropics and what we have. We have some changes today. First off, from the National Hurricane Center, we have an area of disturbance number one, and we no longer have a tropical storm on the board, as we can see. So we've got an empty basin here tonight, but we have a 20% chance of development for a wave that is forecast to come off of the African mainland here over the next few days. We will definitely go over that here tonight and show how the models have kind of changed over the last 24 hours as far as what we were looking at yesterday and why you must look for trends in the models, and you can never really depend on just one run. You have to take in a whole bunch of data and then make a educated guess at it. So if we take a look here tonight, we have our 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. We have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. These are our areas of spin, or our quote unquote seeds for tropical cyclone development. Now, as we continue to run this forward, we will see a little bit of spin around the Cabo Verde Islands, but now we're starting to get an area of focused spin coming off, and here we are out 5 days. Now, by the time that we come out to day 5 here, we have a small little area of spin located on both of the models. So that is congruence between both of those. Now, as we continue to run this forward, we will see that the Euro doesn't really do much with it. A little bit more focused by day 7, but not a lot. The GFS, on the other hand, is really starting to tighten up a very small area of spin out here. So it is, something that we would definitely have to watch. But here we are already at day 7. Now, I'm going to continue to run this forward to see if we get any congruence with the Euro. And the Euro is kind of got an area of focused, energy, I would say, but not necessarily anything that is overly strong. The GFS has a well developed tropical cyclone at this point. If we compare both of these side by side, there is some glaring differences between what we have on the models. One is the high pressure associated here on the Euro is massive. All right, it takes up the entire Atlantic Basin. The high pressure on the GFS, on the other hand, is quite different. So there definitely in differences by the time that we get out 10 days. There's great amount of uncertainty and variance between the models. So it's obviously we don't even have it off the coast. So it's too early to hypothesize. But the one thing that is kind of solid is generalized location. We're here at around 45 degrees west on the Euro, and we're between 40 and 50 here, somewhere probably in this region with the GFS, just a little bit west of 40. So they are, as far as going out 10 days, we're still out here into the middle portions of the tropical Atlantic. So we've got plenty of time to monitor this as we go forward. But now that we know where our seeds are, or at least the seed is, let's take a look at the other factors that would play into this. Sea surface temperatures. We know that the sea surface temperatures are out there are far warm enough to support tropical cyclone activity, so we can check that box off. Our mid-level humidity. Now, what we're looking at here is the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. But the Euro on the upper left and the upper right are of the 500 millibar level. The lower left and the lower right are of the 700 millibar level. Now, these are different levels in height. What that represents is our 700 millibar level is approximately 10,000 feet. Our 500 millibar level is approximately 18,000 feet. So we're looking at the atmospheric conditions within this region. So let's jump back and we're going to run this forward. As we can see, there is a great amount of dry air across the middle portions of the Atlantic on both of the models at the 500 millibar level, and a decent amount down there at the 700 millibar level as well. Now, as we continue to run this forward, we will see here comes our seed. Our seed is associated right. Let's make sure everybody knows where we're at here. This is our seed here. We've got our seed here. We've got it located right here and again right here. So we see now that we're out day 5, we see a great amount of dry air to the north of both of the on both of the models. This is going to continue further to the west, and this is also going to pivot around. So we're looking at potentially marginal conditions as far as the 500 millibar level and potentially inhabitable conditions. Now, if we take a look at the 700 millibar level, we've got some dry air that is punching in this direction here, and what looks to be more dry air punching in this way. But now we know the GFS really tries to ramp this up. So let's erase our marks, and now we'll run this forward through day 7. As we continue to run this forward, we are now out to day 7, and as you can see, the GFS, especially at the 700 millibar level, really didn't take on that dry air. It kind of held it back. As to where the Euro, on the other hand, this is where we get big differences. The wave in question here is located right here. Look at all this dry air. On the Euro, even at the 700 millibar level, we've got our wave in question right here with this large area of dry air also. Counterclockwise flow around a developing low pressure. So this would want to pull in this way potentially. The GFS, on the other hand, does not show that. All this dry air is pinned back up here to the north, except for the 500 millibar level, where we do have some potential entrainment. So all in all, there's certainly some differences and some variables here. Now, we're going to continue to run this out towards day 10, and we'll take a final look here. The Euro 500 millibar level, dry air interruption. The Euro here 700 millibar level looks to have an encompassing area of dry air, potentially trying to interrupt tropical cyclone development. Now, if we compare that to the GFS, we have our area here. It is pretty well encapsulated at the 500 millibar level by this dry air, barring more of a troughing feature right here. At the 700 millibar level, as we could see, we have our wave right here with dry air then also entraining in and trying to encapsulate the storm as well. It is kind of stuck if it follows the GFS's solution. It'll just kind of sit there for a little while. So that's what the atmosphere is looking like. The atmosphere, at least on both of them, are marginal. You know, we're not looking at anything like great, development conditions for sure. Why? It's working on mine. It's showing up on mine there, brother. No, it's working just fine on mine. I'm looking at it right now. I don't know what the issue is there, Bubba. I don't. So let's take a look at our wind shear. Now we have the euro on the left and the GFS on the right. So this is winds changing with height. This goes from the 850 millibar level, way down here at 5,000 feet, all the way up to 39,000 feet at the 200 millibar level. So we're really looking at any type of change of wind with height. Now, as we can see here, we have a decent amount of shear across the basin, and then it kind of lightens up just a little bit. As we come out here to the 120 hour, we can see the trough and some pretty light shear associated with the monsoon trough out here, and the wave comes off south of where we've got a decent belt of shear just to the north of the Cabo Verde Islands. Now, as we continue to run this forward, as we could see, the euro really kind of gets this involved and with some of this shear on the northern side, and also embeds this into what would be the monsoon trough here, where the two air masses kind of collide. If we look at the GFS, it's more of a little bit of an enhancement here. So we've got our area of interest here, and then the wind or the exhaust could potentially help maintain the storm. And we do see on the GFS, as far as the vorticity, a signature really starts to develop when we get into about this time. This is 6.5 days out. As to where the euro, we did not see much at all, and it is embedded here with this shear still located to the north. So we're going to now run this forward. We'll get it out to day 7. As you can see, we've got not a lot. By the time that we run it out to day 10, though, again, still, a sharp axis on the wave here associated with the euro. We've got a developed system here with the GFS, but it's pretty well stuck. As you could see here, you've got winds that are going to want to steer it this way, and then winds that are going to want to steer it this way on top of that. So they're going to kind of cancel each other out, and it's just going to kind of sit there for a little while. With the euro, we've got a sharp axis right here, but then a great amount of shear off to the front of it. And this is on top of what we already looked at with the dry air. So marginal conditions. Now we'll see what the models change into tomorrow. They're definitely going to change. Again, this wave hasn't even exited the African mainland yet. It is just the fact that the models have been trending a little bit more up and up. Now, one thing that is also going to be a potential area that we may have to watch, although we don't see anything, and I'm going to run this back on our seeds, are areas of low pressure developing along the stalled out frontal boundary. As you could see, we have multiple little areas of vorticity or spin associated with our frontal boundary when it stalls out. That being said, I have got here, what we have is the NOAA blend of models on the left and the NOAA Weather Prediction Center official forecast on the right. Now, this is the total precipitation across the southeastern United States over the next, we're going to go out 7 days. And if you notice, for our folks down here in the southeast, Louisiana, Mississippi, and getting into parts of Alabama, as you could see, over the next 48 hours, a decent amount of rain is forecast, okay? But as we continue to run this forward, we will notice that we're starting to get this rain sagging a little further and further to the south. This is going to put a kind of a bullseye on the Florida Peninsula. And now here we are at day 4. When I run this forward now, we're starting to see these totals really blow up over portions of especially southeastern Florida. And then we're going to have to watch this little bullseye off of the southern portion of the panhandle with the NOAA blended models. But the official forecast has got 3.5 inches across the north central portions of the Gulf Coast here, western Florida panhandle, coastal Mississippi, and coastal Alabama. So we could see an area of low pressure develop off of this. It is likely to be non-tropical. It's going to be very difficult for a tropical system to develop off of this, but we are going to see some considerable amounts of rain associated with this as we go through this upcoming week. All right, taking a look at our ensembles, if we see here, we have in the ensembles, we have for the Euro Legacy, we've got not much. Now there is a little bit of a signal. It's whether it's south, whether it's north, does it develop early, does it develop later? The model doesn't really know, and that's expected for something that's still on the African mainland with at least another 72 hours before it even attempts to emerge from the coastline. So if we just look at this, there is a high degree of uncertainty. We've got our areas of low pressure developing here, maybe into the northeastern Gulf or here into the southwestern Atlantic, and then rushing out to sea. But now I'm going to push this out to day 12. As you could see, there may be a little bit of potential for development as it gets a little closer to the islands. But in the overall, even if we run this out 15 days, it's still struggling to make it across the Atlantic with the few that do want to develop it. And then you see all types of crazy tracks like this one here that comes up, goes like this. So the models are all over the place, folks. So if you see some scary models or, deterministic runs over the next few days, please keep in mind that it's way too early for any type of determination. Now, if we compare the Euro Legacy with the Euro AI, we see a higher return of signals here on the Euro AI, but still a very large spread in the overall signals themselves. If we look, we're talking about all the way from below 15 degrees north as far west as getting out here to like 55 degrees west, and as far east as 35 west, and as far north as potentially 26 27 degrees north. So by this time, as you could see though, 10 days, it is still forecast to be out here into the central portion of the tropical Atlantic. If we push this out day 12, as you can see, we don't really have a high return in signal. We could take it all the way out to La La Land, and La La Land does show the potential for a northern turn, similar to what the Euro Legacy was showing. Now, if we compare all these with the GEFS has some signal coming out towards day 10, no question about it. If we drop it out to 12, very few development. And then if we drop it to 15, we see that everything has kind of this more northerly component to it. So even if it develops out here into the main development region, it is going to be questionable as to whether it can make it all the way across the basin before it pulls north, clears the islands, gets north of 20 before it reaches 60. And then even if it gets out here, it's not a guarantee that it's going to impact or affect land. Now, if it runs way south, then it's going to have to be something that is, increased the risk for sure. Now, if we compare the GEFS and the Euro AI models with the Google DeepMind, So we're going to run this forward, and as we could see, here comes our area of interest. We're out 5 days, day 6, day 7 at this point. Now, I also want to draw your attention to this area over here into the Eastern Pacific, which could potentially impact the weather here for folks on the West Coast and obviously for the folks there on the Baja. But first, we're going to highlight this one. And as you could see, some of these in the Google DeepMind do bring it to a very powerful, potentially major hurricane. But knowing that there's 50 ensemble members and we don't have 50 lines. So not all of the Google DeepMind ensemble members are picking up on tropical cyclone development. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. Now, if we compare that to our little interest out here, this is what I'm talking about. If we zoom in to some of these tracks, they may be a little bit difficult to see, but we've got a grouping of tracks right in here that are potentially drawing this up. And even if you do not have a bona fide tropical cyclone, crossing over the Baja and then making it actually as a bona fide center into portions of the southwestern United States, that really isn't going to matter. Because the overall moisture that would be associated with this would stream up into the southwestern United States and potentially cause an area of flash flooding, or the chance of flash flooding. So it's something that we're definitely going to have to watch. Tropical downpours in desert regions don't like to mix very well. Soil's hydrophobic and it causes things to run and pool in the low-lying areas because the ground is so dry that it's not really going to absorb water quickly. All right, now our nightly look at our Madden-Julian oscillation run, and there's some variability. There definitely was yesterday. There seems to still keep a consistent vulnerability or to some high degree of uncertainty. And as we could see here tonight, our MJO is located right here. So over the past couple days, we have fallen back into the circle, and the forecast is for this to potentially come around like this and come back out. Well, as we can see tonight, we've got the forecast for it to do something potentially like this. And then the other high-res model wants to bring it back out, or the regular GFS wants to bring it back out here into phase 5. So the GEFS wants to kind of draw it and potentially accelerate it towards phase 1 and phase 8, which is our area of the world, going in that general direction. So we have not had consistency on our MJO models. Now, I'm going to pop this up because this shows empirical wave propagation. So what we're looking at is another signal for the MJO, but potentially to see rising air as well. And if we look right in here when we get our first hint of it, and maybe getting a little bit of it right here, we're looking at September 17th, September 22nd, potentially some more rising air over the Caribbean through September 27th, and then potentially a little bit of a boundary here in the beginning of October. But it does look like that there is a great amount of suppressive or sinking air here for October 7th. So we may have a 2-3 week pulse of better environment for tropical cyclone development. Now, if we compare these to to what we've got with the GEFS, as you could see with the GEFS has kind of the propagation going this way here, but then also still leaves a lobe of energy back here as well. Now, when we look at these, we are located here in kind of this region for our Atlantic Basin. This is the area of most concern. This is the area of where population, as far as the North Atlantic, is there. So, and even some of the Eastern Pacific. As you could see, as it propagates through, there is some question, maybe not a lot of, inclement weather there at the 200 millibar level. If we compare this, and all these graphics are the same, if we compare this with the Euro AI, as you could see, we do have the potential for some type of lift or, potentially conducive environment getting into this region here. But then look what occurs as we get later into September. So there's still quite a bit of question. And if we compare that with the Euro Legacy and the Euro AI are similar. So it's fluid, folks, and it's changing day by day. So we will continue to update on it day by day, so we are all aware of the trends within the models. Now, Earth Null, real quick, I want to touch on this. Nobody brought it up, which I was kind of thankful. But I am going to touch on it just in case anybody would like to know. You've got an area right here that looks like it's got some rotation and some spin. So we're going to come over here to Earth Null and we're going to take a look. We've got some lift down here at the surface. We've got maybe a little bit of rotation at the 850, maybe more of a kink axis, but nothing really overly deterministic. And if we take a look at the overall wind flow itself, and is to get an idea of where this particular area of showers and thunderstorms is going, welcome to South America. So, just wanted to cover that real quick. If we take a look at our nightly look at our dust model, it's not going to be much longer. I'm probably going to shut this down at the beginning of September because it doesn't really become much of a factor any longer. As you could see, the dust is not making it very far across the basin. The trade winds are not there. Even if the dust is lofted up into the atmosphere, as you could see here, trying to come off the African coast, it pretty much collapses by the time that it reaches 30 degrees west. And at that point, we're going to start, focusing our concentration a little bit more from about the 40-degree west line and further to the west as the season starts to change a little bit. Yes, we could still see development come off of the African mainland, and this is why we're going to still keep it out here to 40 west. But as far as if anything were to try to develop way too early, east of 40 degrees west, the chances of it making it out here to 60 degrees west before reaching 20 is going to be 20 degrees north would be extraordinarily difficult. Now, please keep in mind that just because we have a lull in activity does not mean that we are not going to see, development still for the season. Don't let your guard down. The Global Tropics Hazards Outlook still has us for week 3, popping, turning the light switch on, so to speak, here in the Atlantic Basin. So, folks, just make sure, pay attention to the forecast. We are approaching the climatological peak season. As you can see, the climatological peak season is September the 10th. That's this point right here. So, and we are almost to the end of August. We're basically like right here. So we're not far off of it. So please don't let your guard down. Just because of what we've seen in the first half of the season does not necessarily reflect how the second half of the season is going to go. All right, jumping out here to the Eastern Pacific. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Let's see. I don't see anything. Just please feel free to drop it in there. And jumping out here to the Eastern Pacific, we have Invest 93E out here into the portions of the Eastern Pacific, currently with a 50% chance of development over the next 48 hours and an 80% chance of development over the next 7 days. No threat to land. We also have this area here with a near 0% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 50% chance of development over the next 7 days. If we take a look at the satellite view, we can see former Juliet up here as a naked swirl of clouds, no shower and thunderstorm associated with her. And as we could see here, we just got the refresh on that. We also have Invest 93E right here. The pocket and wave of energy associated with former Invest 99L is what is kind of moving through. It's spotty. It could kind of be somewhere really in this entire general region. And it could be this pocket of focused shower and thunderstorm activity as well. That is forecast to move off. That's the one that we're going to have to watch for, especially for the folks there in the southwestern U.S., just for rainfall, obviously not direct impacts. So, jumping out to the western Pacific, as we can see, we have Tropical Depression 20W. This is following on the heels of Typhoon Kajiki, and this is forecast to move into portions of Vietnam, as we could see, though, as a moderate tropical storm or weekend tropical storm. It is going to be a massive rainmaker, which is something that they obviously don't want to hear, being that the soils are still extremely saturated from the previous tropical cyclone landfall that they had last week. So the roadway and the pathway is set up kind of in that general direction right now. So hopefully everything just runs according to plan, and it is a very weak system, and we do not have any loss of property or life. So, all right, let me check again. I don't see anything. All right, everybody, you're welcome, Lisa. Thank you for attending. And all right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. We will be live again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central Time here on Facebook and YouTube. Come join us. We'll talk about our little spot. We'll see if the development percentages have increased. We'll check over any trends in the models to see if there is any more of a coherent signal. Maybe some of the models will kind of start to agree with one another a little bit more. We'll see. So join us tomorrow night, and we'll talk to you then. Have a great night, everybody.